guys, my name is Lewis. I'm the actual installer for Dyness. Today's products we're going to be installing is Orion. One is the smart controller. That is the brain, that is the control for the host system that we're going to be installing. The EDU is basically the control. You can tell the smart controller when going off grid. So we're going to get started. Every one of these packages is delivered as you see it. Every individual one. Please take notes, please take pictures when receiving your product and make sure that they're all banded. There's no physical damage whatsoever. Things like this, note it. Welcome back, guys. First box that we're going to be opening, lines. Be sure to lay down upright. Pull the front cover off. As you notice here, these are all your port entries coming into the smart controller. Next thing you want to do is look carefully that each individual Dyness box has every individual packaging for what it needs to be mounted. We're about to start putting the actual smart controller up on the wall. First thing you want to do is look at the back of the smart controller. There's a safety bolt that you need to put in place and you're getting ready to install and after installation. Backing slides into place after installation of the wall. What I like to do is start off with the center bolt to verify that you have balance on everything. So when installing this, you do want to use all 4 anchor joints and anchor points for this installation. Very critical. So just in case it doesn't fall off the wall and avoid your warranty through Dyness. You'll have a list of everything that's been delivered on this Dyness sheet. You want to kind of go through it. You might want to get some second eyes on it as well for proper installation. Because the most important thing is that if you don't have any of this material, then you can't have it commissioned, can't have it tested, and it won't have its proper functionality. Here's the quick installation guide. What you want to do is take this and you want to read through it thoroughly if you first time installer. What you want to do is just carefully go through this, talk to people, talk to your team, verify that you understand. You have all the tools, you have met the Dyness criteria. What you also want to do is make sure that you have everything that it's asking for this proper installation. The most important thing is you want to look at this manual here. What we want to make sure that you have is the Dyness serial number label that's located on the left-hand side. Got it. Very important, you want to make sure that it's on there so when you're doing the communication and the commissioning, you're going to need that information. You want to verify that these 2 latches here, if you look on the side, there's 2 key insert. Slightly pulled out towards you and out. It's a little tough because there's a rubber seal in it, so you might want to do is push in slightly to engage and disengage it. Great thing about Dyness' installations, every one of their smart controller is equipped with a 200 amp main breaker. It's also installed 2 individual inverter 1 60 amp breakers and inverter 2 60 amp breakers. As well, you'll also see that it has a electricity meter, which is a CT, to verify the functionality of the smart controller. And as well as you also see this white dead front. And as well as you also see that the grounding between the door and the structure of the actual smart controller. What we're going to do here is take the actual dead front off. This is a number 2 Phillips bit to remove each individual screw for the dead front. This quickly here, that's for the meters, the CTs. As you can see, it's over bus bar A and bus bar B. You'll have each individual terminations individually for the inverters, as you can see here, nicely labeled. Terminations for the inputs will be on the bottom side. We're going to go back through this main breaker here for the 200 amp service. As you can see, terminations are on the bottom. Straight down, you'll see a pre-drilled manufactured gland, the 2-inch, which is completely removable. And as you can see on the bottom, it's sealed. That's where your utility grid will come in. These 2 ports here are your neutral. Nicely labeled. They also have pre-tapped individuals for expansion for your neutral bar. Then you have what is called the backup. From utility to backup, we need that kind of transition. So this is L1. Also, please look out for your AHJ for color and orientation. That's L1, L2. As you can see here down below is your ground bar, which individually tapped, specifically sized, and that's also in your the materials that was sent out to you. Next product we're going to talk about is the actual hybrid inverter. First, let's go ahead and unpackage it. Remove all of the three binds. We're about to install the hybrid inverter. After getting my proper measurements here to do the inverter hybrid setup on the back braking. What we're going to want to do is have one on each side of this while we're doing the installation. Proper technique when lifting this up. Most importantly, one guy on his side Spencer is going to be looking at it while we're bringing it down into the bracket, so you can see all eyes while bringing it down. We're going to go through this hybrid inverter functionality of it. You're going to have an on and off switch located top left for the PV switch. You're going to have a push button rapid shutdown, pre-drilled with covering gland as well as underneath. And you're going to see on this far right left side as well as a pre-drilled. Most importantly, you're going to see two labels. You want to make sure these two labels are in place. Very important when you're doing the commissioning later on after the installation. There's a quick rundown on this label here, which states what it's indicating, what it's doing, and how it's communicating. And we'll talk about that later on. One important thing that you need to watch out for and look for on the hybrid inverter is there's a back brace in the very back. This prevents it from doing this. So what you want to do is there's two individual nuts. Okay. Remove them and flip the bracket upside down so that the U shape is facing down, and that'll prevent that. You also want to make sure there's no damage. We're going to go through the battery materials that are individually packed in these. You're going to see one large back. You're going to see two individual side mounts for the side of the batteries, which are specifically for each individual side. Then it's going to have multiple wiring. As you can see, they're two different colors for two different applications. It's going to come with an individual manual, packing list, which we'll go over briefly. You're going to see two crimps for grounding. And also they're going to send you out 4 individual braking harnesses to place the battery for different applications. This is Lewis. We're going to go through the packing list for the battery. So we're going to go through this. There's a quantity. You're going to see the battery. You can see the expansion screws, the communication cable. You're going to see the grounding terminal. You're going to see the series cable. You're going to see the packing list. You're going to see the warranty card. You're going to see the letter to the customer. Very important, you want to keep this so you can get your system registered and so you can have a proper warranty during the installation. What's important here is the orientation of the back plate. As you notice, there is a lip, and this is where the actual battery is going to be placing. And there's also another top lip for where the battery slides into. You want to look at this thing closely. As you can tell, this is pretty much the width of your battery installation. There's 4 pre-hole drills at 1/2 inch for whatever application you're going to be installing on. Welcome back, guys. This is Lewis. We're going to do the battery installation portion. This will require 2 people. So please try to get some help when you're doing the installation for proper installation. What I want to walk through and talk to you about is the orientation of the battery installation. You can actually do it in landscape and also in portrait. And how great and quick this installation will be is that this backplate is literally placed on the first bottom backplate, as well as here and here. What you want to do is get your proper measurements in between here. Every individual bag will have the right size and the right equivalent battery cable that's necessary to communicate, and as well as your battery cable. When doing the installations, be sure they're lined up so you can see how they're in place. And eventually we'll be putting these installed shortly. What I want to talk to you about is the VDU. This is the brains, this is the communication between the battery and the inverter. This, once we get this open, it'll also have a backplate, and which will be on what orientation you have it laid out. You can have it here, here, or if these two brackets are placed here, then you can have the VDU set here, which will be closer to your inverter. So orientation and placement is key to your installation. Welcome back, guys. This is the Orion series VDU. It's the communication between the hybrid inverter to the battery. Most important equipment out there. Let's go ahead and open this box up. You want to make sure during delivery, handling, make sure everything is in perfect condition or almost perfect condition. Take pictures, write down any kind of hit to the equipment. We're going to open up this package. You're going to see the backplate for the VDU. Pretty much just as equal of what the battery uses. You're going to see the Dyness VDU, a sleek, just as equally that looks like the battery. You're going to see a package in the box, multiple equipment. You're going to see pretty much the same package of what you see for the batteries. You can place to the side. We'll go over that shortly. You're going to see two individual side plates. You're also going to see the communication for all the battery cables and the connection points to the battery cables in this bag. We're going to briefly go through this packing list that's been shipped out. One is the VDU, the backplate, the Orion ESS user manual. You're going to see 2 pages in here for the warranty and also the warranty form in here. You're going to see 4 gland hose covers that are individually held on top, as you can see here, on the battery as well as the VDU. You're going to have 4 bolts depending on how the installation you're using. Please keep mindful that whatever type of installation you're doing, whether it's wood, stucco, brick, please use the proper. Then we're going to go over to your battery cables. We got positive, negative, communication between VDU to your first battery. And you're going to have, and you can see it here listed. So your power cable, you'll have 2 of those. Talk about the VDU, what each individual connection point is, from battery 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. If you look closely on the sides here, you'll have positive, negative, inverter can, the battery can, the off and on switch, and then your wake up button. And then below that, you'll have positive battery and a negative battery, inputs and outputs. To see a little clearer, you can see it here, which each individual battery is all the same. You'll have a can in, then a can out, which those are the communication cables that you'll be installing. Then you have a positive, and then a negative. Known as the connection points for the battery. Most importantly, let's make sure that the AC is completely off, and the DC, all main breakers are completely off as well. And as you can see on each side, on the left side of the VDU, breaker here is in the off position. Battery 1 is in the off position towards you. 2, off position. 3 in the off position. 4 in the off position. We're all good to go. Safety is the key, and we are ready for it to do the installation. You're going to see the cables, positive and negative. as well as your other cable that's going in from the links from your first to your last battery. Your short jumper from the BDU to your first battery, and then your communication battery. So we want to start off with communication from BDU to your first. So what we want to concentrate on is the jumpers now for the battery cables from 1 to 2, and 2 to 3, 3 to 4. This is your first jumper. Will be installed from your positive to positive. Then you'll take your second cable. Each of the batteries had a baggage of individual communication and battery cable. And what we want to do is do the installation from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and 3 to 4. You can tell 2 different color bins. What you want to do is place here. Every one of these battery cables has a cap. You want to make sure that these caps are on before you do any of the installation to protect yourself. We're going to go ahead and remove them. Go through the gland. This is your positive. Insert. You'll hear a clip. Once you hear that, that is in place. Your second one will go to your negative. And as well, you'll hear it clip. This procedure will go from 2 to 3, 3 to 4. Every one is just like that. The key is the last module battery, regardless if it's in the orientation of landscape or portrait, you need to take that last battery cable. So the next step for the battery 4 to the BDU, we're going to take these long cables, and it'll be the negative. That'll be your last battery. Be sure to clip it in. Go to the glands on this next installation. So what you want to do is get with your HJ for the requirements to go between 2 individual batteries. You can use conduit, gutter. Make sure your applications are for outside and inside. It's just so you can see. We're going to take this to go through. You'll have some kind of protection of your choice while doing the installation between this battery to this battery. And once it's in place, Dyness has sent us 4 positive and negative ends, which we'll be crimping on to these ends here. And this will take care from your last battery to your BDU. All right, guys, I'm going to show you all these connection points. You're going to have a positive and negative. These two will actually individually be going back to your hybrid inverter. You'll have a communication from your inverter can to your first BDU. Then you're going to have, of course, your wake, your on and off. You're going to have your battery can cable, which will go from here to your second battery, BDU to first battery. Then you'll have your front jumper, positive to positive. Then you'll have your second can out communication cable to your can in second battery. Then you'll have your can out battery cable to your third communication in, and then your out communication from your third battery to your fourth battery to your in here, and that'll complete the circuit for the communication. And what we want to do is come back. You'll have a positive and your negatives. So your positive first battery, it'll have your connection here from your BDU. Your negative will jump down, as you can see here, to your positive. And then from your negative, you will go down over with the proper installation of what jurisdiction you're in. Make sure you want to comply to all the NEC code. Goes over to your third battery, going up to your positive connection. And then your negative connection will go up to your last battery to your positive connection. And then your negative connection, this is the one that we need to be, make sure we're installing it correctly, because this is the jumper that goes from here all the way back up, down and up to your first battery BDU. And that'll complete the circuitry of the battery installation. these two female male adapter kits, which simply connect and insert together after you do the installation. And if you look closely here, you can pull them apart. Your end wire goes into this gland, into here, and it crimps down. Once after installation, as you can see here, one's a female, one's a male, they'll go in together, snap in for the closed connection point, and your circuitry is complete. Now that you can see how this application opens and closes, once closed, it squeezes down onto the terminals that are factory. And what you want to do, positive with the positive, negative with the negative, make sure they're completely installed firmly. Gently press down, negative, then the positive. Be sure to give a nice tug on each individual wire to make sure they are secured for the terminations. Then you want to take your communication from your BMS port. As you can see, there's only one set of orientation that needs to be installed. Once you hear that click, that communication is ready to be installed and ready from VDU to inverter. And that'll complete the installation from positive and negative and communication from VDU to inverter. So when installing the VDU conduit, you can use personal preference as long as it meets the NEC code. Once you're leaving the VDU, you come down the way we did it in the installation here. We brought it underneath. And why we brought it underneath is for future expansion. This gland is open. You can still use it, but in this case what we did was we brought it in here, up, over. So these two wires, the positive and negative, as well as the BMS communication wire from VDU to inverter, is protected at all times. That's for the purpose and the greatness that Dyness has this pre-cut out 1-inch hose on the bottom and 1 inch on the side. Orientation is key. Placement is key. Keep in mind that the factory wiring is specifically sized at a certain length. So prepping, setting up the wall orientation is key. Be sure to measure, not just once, twice, to make sure everything is working in factory form. The other thing too that you want to watch is these two individual antennas. Basically, we talked about earlier, they are just small two antennas for Wi-Fi, and they simply screw under. And the other one is for the 4G. Same thing. And that'll complete. You also want to check the two individual connection points that are for the 4G and the Wi-Fi. Make sure they're nice and tight. And you can see where they come up at. Make sure they're in place so you can get proper Wi-Fi and communication, so when you get ready to start doing the installation and the commissioning, you'll work solid. Alright guys, we're going to go through the AC connections. What we're going to be doing here and what you're going to be illustrating and you're going to see here is the connection points from inverter hybrid to the actual smart controller. So each individual jurisdiction, make sure you get in contact with your HJ for what is line 1, neutral, and line 2 colors. In this case here, your line 1 is black, line 2 is red, and your neutral is white. Same scenario, you'll gently pull up the tab, insert the wire at the proper requirement length of stripping back each individual wires. These sets of wires will go back to the smart controller. So when ready, and for the actual backup utility power, that'll communicate from smart controller to inverter, and this is what basically tells us, hey, I'm going to be back feeding power when the utility is down. In the back area, there is a factory there's a factory plate for the grounding, which is the pre-drilled factory bolts are in the back. Please use those and your equipment that's been delivered. Okay, so for the DC installation strings, Tigo is one of the applications that you can actually install in a hybrid inverter. And as you can see here, there's a positive and a negative VA, which is in this module here, and it has the basically indication for the communication between roof to here. And as you can see, everything is labeled positive, negative, the B and the A, and everything else that you need to verify communication and what size of wire, what needs to be in place is all on the illustration from the Tygo, which is also in the pamphlet and all the equipment that Dyness had set up. Point connections here. You have PV1, PV2, 3, and 4. Those are your 4 MPPTs that you can have solar coming down. Each one is individually positive. Next over is negative, then positive, then negative, positive, then negative, then positive and negative. As you see it changing, those are the changes of your PV1 to PV2 to PV2 to PV3, which is your MPPTs. Lewis, the installer for Dyness. What we're going to be doing now is closing up all the circuitry cabinets on both sides. We're going to be installing the first BDU one. We want to go ahead and keep them closed and in the opposition for protection for whoever else is working on it for temporarily. As you look closely, there is an arrow facing down and then facing up. What you want to do is place it here in the bottom. I'm going to take this one right here, bring it down, and that sets in place. They're all individually sized, so you'll come across, same thing, turn the bottom, you hear it snap. So as you can see, place, now we push down, locks into place. And just repeat the steps over for all individual batteries. Once that is all done and closed up and the wire management is in place, you're good to go. We can go to the next step to complete the installation. And transfer and have the utility in the open position, meaning not having utility power once lost, to backup power. Once it's in backup power, it'll stay maintained until the utility is maintained and on. It will see the frequencies and the hertz, maintain the sine wave, and once it's all established, it'll kick back over and you'll go back into utility mode. The smart control device, we're going to make sure that the 200 amp breaker is on position, which is up. The inverter 1 is also in the up position. Everything else is terminated properly according to the NEC code. Then our next step is your hybrid inverter. What you want to make sure is that RSD switch is on in place. Your PV is in the off position until after commissioning. You want to make sure everything is in closed position, nothing's opened and getting ready. You want to make sure all of these tabs are down position, meaning closed, that all the wires are good and tight. Make sure to double check all your connection points. Once all commissioned, you'll see a little green light here. That means the Tygo communication between the modules of the roof or the building is communicating here. Third step is go from inverter to the BDU. On the BDU, each individual one of these has its own master breaker. We need to have it up in the up position. One here, one here, one here, here, and here. Once all in place, our next step is to wake it up and then do the off and on black toggle switch. Once it's in place, you'll have it woke up. You'll hear 2 clicks. You'll see the LED lights and all the individual batteries light up in a blue. Once everything is communicating and talking, there's a label on the right-hand side of the inverter. At this point, you'll see every LED indicator, what it's doing, what the hybrid inverter is doing, all on here displayed. Once on and commissioned, everything's working properly. We'll go ahead and turn on your DC strings. It's in the off position, down to the on position. Once all the proper voltage testing, all the terminations from the DC, AC, and also the batteries all in place, we are good to go. The key things that you want to see is your run, your off and on grid, your communication, and your state of charge, the SOC. That's what your battery state of charge is at right now. If you see all of these in the correct color, then you know you've commissioned, you have installed your new Dyness 20 kW battery backup system. My name is Lewis. Thank you for everything. Appreciate. And please, look into the Dyness. Great product. Thank you.